Nicole.
And my name's Megan.
And this is the Synchronicity Podcast. We are the co-founders of Synchronicity. Change your brain, change your life. We work in relationships, communication. Pretty much we take the old programming that you were given in childhood and we give you new outlook on life and how to communicate and how to be your true self outside of what your parents told you you had to be. Did I miss anything?
To the new guests, we are so happy to have you. Welcome to the OGs or anybody that's just been on our journey at any point in time. Thank you. We're so happy that you're here and you continue to show up for us and listen. So just lots of gratitude to everybody that's listening to us or watching us or whatever you're doing. Today, we are going to go over one of my favorite topics because
it truly is one of your favorite topics.
And when I say it, people are like, what did you just say? And that is ego dystonic. I say this and I tried to stop saying it at like friend get-togethers and stuff. But it's one of my favorite words.
Well, and so when you Google it, it's very fascinating. So I've had this conversation with Meg. I actually hate I hate the word ego dystonic. Like, I hate it. It drives me crazy every time Megan says it. And I'm like, I know it's the scientific meaning. I know what it means. But like people, like she said, people go cross-eyed. Well, when you Google it, it talks about mainly in homosexual relationships is what it brings up. It doesn't actually talk about the true breakdown of what is happening. It's just like, oh, they're ego dystonic, they're homosexual. It's like scientifically broken down into this is pretty much what they call a gay relationship, a homosexual relationship. So when Meg and when Megan first started,
I'm actually going to Google it,
talking about it. Yeah. Cause when we first started coming up, and this came up, like, we learned that this topic probably like close to 3 years ago. Right. And it would, like, there was these crazy charts and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so complex. Like, it does not need to be this aggressive.
Does it go into homosexuality? Because it says on here, ego dystonic means a person's thoughts, emotions, or behaviors are inconsistent with their values, beliefs, and self-concept.
Yeah, but when you continue to read about it, they talk about it mainly in homosexual relationships. That's when they use the main term.
People with ego dystonic experiences may feel guilt or shame and may feel compelled to act in ways that go against their morals. Yeah, so
I'm wrong?
No.
Okay.
No.
I was like, I don't know what you're trying to say.
You're not wrong. I'm saying it's true to definition to how I explain it, which
yeah. We just break it down in like more of what we work in like energetic aspects. But when you actually Google it, like Megan just said, that's the definition of it. But the more you dig into it, they don't talk about it in heterosexual relationships. They mainly just focus on it being very prominent in homosexual relationships,
which is homophobic in my opinion.
I am totally on. When I started reading it, and I was like,
messed up.
I mean, I literally told Meg, I was like, wait, what? And she was like, I don't know. This is bizarre. Like, that's not actually. It exists in all humans. Why are we like making it? Why are we isolating, one group of people? But anyways, that's a totally different topic. But that was definitely, Megan was like, what?
I would say that this exists in the majority of human beings in today's world. That's why so many people have like guilt and shame spins and like, live in this. That's why so many people are addicts and things like that. Like an addict is ego dystonic, right? There's pain addicts and no pain addicts. No pain addicts are substance abuse addicts. And pain addicts are debtors, shoppers, anorexics, bulimics, gamblers, things like that are pain addicts. And they marry each other. Yay! Because they have each other's missing piece, right? We just did an entire podcast on Kundalini and, sexual energy exchange and how we fall in love with our counterpart or our soul reflected. So, anyway, if you're in a shame spin, guilt spin, like you're having some pretty difficult self-beliefs and you're having some that are coming out in your relationships. So I can understand why, like, maybe back in the day when they were trying to make like gay men straight, that they would call that ego dystonic because they would think that it was morally wrong. But nowadays, I mean, that's interesting. I'm going to have to read more about that because you've said that. I have just never looked into it, but I'm going to look into it more.
Well, when I said it, your face was like, what the fuck?
Well, because...
And then you literally said, well, that is homophobic. Yeah, and I was like, I don't know. That's what the internet says.
Like, you love who you love. Like, you can be in a male body and be one of the most, what we call feminine cores, which is what feels best in a relationship that I've ever met. And you can be a woman that has the biggest dick energy I've ever met in my life. Like, it's all about what in your life makes you feel the most fulfilled and where your soul really feels grounded and happy. That's what we preach and teach. Not sure about the rest of the psychiatrists, psychologists, and all the other stuff that's going on in today's world. But for us, ego dystonic is just essentially, we explain it as your inside out. That is the easiest explanation is that your insides and your outsides are not speaking the same language. They're not on the same page for whatever reason, probably because your parents, you were not allowed to be yourself.
Hold on. Your insides mean your soul. Your outside means your skin, not your intestines. Well, just clarifying.
Well, it's also like your thoughts and your feelings are not. So an emotional human being feels, reacts, and thinks later. Okay? And this is Steve Karpman's work. If you want to know more about it, Google him. And we will do more podcasts on this,
send
I'm sure.
Send us a message. We'll send you a book.
Rational human beings. So emotional people are ego dystonic. Rational people feel, remember, because emotions are rooted in the past, not the present. Feelings are rooted in the present. So rational people feel, think, respond. Okay? That is a grounded, rational being.
Not ego dystonic.
The other person is ego dystonic. They're like, who they want to be is not represented in their actions because they respond emotionally based off of trauma, not off of authenticity. And most human beings are terrified of being authentic because they were shamed as children for being authentic. And if they transactional love was present in their home, and if they didn't act and do things a certain way, they were not loved. So the majority of people live in a transactionally loved-based relationship with their parents and their significant others, for that matter, because we repeat our parents' patterns until we heal them. So you married one of your parents, or hopefully you're listening to this before you got married, or whatever, and you're learning to not repeat the patterns if you didn't like them. Maybe you had good parents and you want to repeat the pattern, but we don't. So we have changed it, and that's a lot of the work that we have done, is to not repeat the pattern of our household. So ego dystonic is one of my favorite words because I was ego dystonic, and now I'm rational, stoic, grounded human, to the best of my ability every day.
Yeah. So what happens is when you become ego dystonic, I'm going to say feminine body, masculine soul. That's how it should be. Should. Yes, I'm shitting on you. I normally won't shit on you. But if you're feminine body, masculine soul, that means you're coming from your feelings. You're working from what feels good in the body, and your masculine soul will come forward when you have a baby or when you need to call a doctor, a lawyer, or
the police.
So that's how that works. Now, for masculine, so if she then flips and her masculine soul comes forward, that is what a lot of people talk about, the masculine shield. That's when we have Megan and I both used to be in it, this like boss bitch, not in tune with her body, completely disassociated, ruled by your head.
Amazon woman.
Yes. And if you want to know more about like the feminine aspect of this, we have a whole female class that talks about the different archetypes of when you're flipped inside out and you're ego dystonic. You can flip right side in.
We've done it.
Yes, we've done it. But I'm just saying is that's kind of, if you want to know the archetypes, I was like the total, Meg was more of a playgirl. I was more of an Amazon. And we kind of like played around, like both of us kind of swung back and forth between those. But anyways.
Or I was a mother. I don't know, because
Yeah.
my nickname in college was Mom, so I'm curious if, like...
Yeah, but that was more like you didn't let people drink and drive. You would be the responsible one.
Totally mothered men. 100%
Okay, well,
mothered men.
Okay, so
I was like,
anyways,
how do you feel? What are your feelings?
So she's either anyways, you can be all of them. You just get flipped right. You get flipped right side. Mm-hmm. You have to do the work, and this is where plant medicine comes in to be able to understand the subconscious programming, to be able to identify it, to be like, oh shit, I'm flipped inside out. I am like this masculine shield. Fuck men. I can do it on my own. Blah 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 blah. Now the other side of it is when masculine body, feminine soul, they're flipped. And so this is where we get wuss syndrome in men. They have a tendency to not be grounded, don't want to lead. They're just super like indecisive.
Don't want to pay.
They want this 50-50 relationship. A lot of times these wuss men are looking for a mommy.
They want free sex.
The masculine woman who has her masculine shield on is usually very attracted to a wuss man because she's like, fuck that. I'll take care of myself. And he's like, oh my God, a mommy? Like, you'll 50-50. You'll pay for your own shit. I love this.
Where's Wendy?
So, and they do well together because 9 times out of 10, they're usually alpha archetypes. Actually, 10 out of 10, they're alpha archetypes because betas they don't play with this game. And honestly, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably not a beta and this is not resonating with you at all because you probably haven't even gotten to this part of the podcast. If you're a beta, you turned it off. So anyway, so masculine shield happens with women when they're flipped inside out. They're just like bosses, mother men, they're a force to be reckoned with.
Cherish men's feelings.
Yes. And then wuss syndrome is where men lead with their feelings instead of their thoughts. So it's
they're
really
Peter Pans.
Yeah, they're Peter Pans. And if you want more on that, one, we have a male brain class that breaks down how brain chemistry works in men versus women. And we also just did a podcast. I believe it went out like early last week. I don't know, one of those days. But it's literally called Peter Pan.
Yeah.
So go listen to that because that's literally like you're a wuss and you're suffering from a wuss syndrome. You are a Peter Pan. I'm sorry. I know I probably hurt your feelings, but I don't care about your feelings.
Well, but also like you're an alpha man that needs to step into his full power and you don't feel fulfilled and you don't feel good because what you're doing is trying to feel good to do good, which is feminine.
Right.
Instead of doing good in order to feel
Look,
good.
you're flipped inside out.
Exactly. Your feelings have to come secondary.
Yes.
So you cherish a woman's feelings over your own. That's being a man. Of course you still have feelings, but you don't lead with them because women feel.
Yes.
Men think. It's complementary, but if you have two beings trying to feel, you have friendship or you hate each other. If you have two beings both trying to think, again, there's not going to be sexual attraction.
You can't have two Freds or two Lindas in a relationship.
Right, but it's friendship or it's fuck off. So it's really important. The 21st century, today's world, and why relationships are so jacked up is because the majority of people are ego dystonic. Been there. And all of my relationships were screwed up and no therapist could tell me why until I understood this concept and was like, oh my gosh, my parents raised me as a little boy and I'm actually a feminine core. And maybe that's why they relate it to homosexual relationships because I was literally like confused as to why my relationships weren't working. But anyway, it was because I was presenting as a man and I wanted to date men. You can't do that. I have to present feminine, right? Right? I'm super feminine, but my energy was presenting masculine, which was repelling masculine men and attracting feminine men. And these, like, it's actually funny when I scroll through Instagram now, when I see these super effeminate men that are just like total Peter Pans. And actually one of my exes even called himself Peter Pan. And I remember being like, I need to reassess my life. Like, what is happening? You know, let his mom drive him, was just like, you know, I want to be free. I don't want to, like, I just want to be Peter Pan. I'm like, you are so broken. But he's an alpha, right? But he was presenting as a beta or presenting as somebody that wants a mommy, and he dates women that will mother him. His feelings are more important than everybody else's. This is also the narcissistic child, the pro-Turnus. Again, we did a podcast on that, but it's everything that we talk about is all related, right? But this is a huge thing in our society. And then we have these crazy, ambitious, boss-pissed, Miss Independent women that are like, I don't need a man, blah, 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 blah. And then they wake up at 40 and go, I made a mistake. And they don't understand why their relationships aren't successful. Or they're so disassociated, they've never even had an orgasm having sex.
Or they cheat.
Or they cheat because
or they marry beta men that will take care of their babies, and they're having 5 fucking affairs, and they're like, I'm drunk and, sleeping with my boss. How'd we get here? Oh, well, let me tell you. This is how we got here.
This is how we got here. So it's we could go on and on. This is like one of my favorite topics.
And the baseline of it is like it stems in childhood. It's trauma induced.
Yes.
And so we talk about this in the Peter Pan. We talk about this. We talk about this all the time. But if a little boy is cherished after the age of 11, he will become a wuss. His mother has eaten his masculinity, and he will look for a woman who has a masculine shield. He wants a mommy. He still is looking for a mommy.
A woman that makes him feel good.
Yes. Yep. He wants to feel good to do good, aka a woman.
He's feeling centered.
Yeah. Then what happens is when you challenge a girl and do not cherish her,
they cry.
They cry. They definitely cry. But what happens is that's where you're nurturing her masculine shield.
Yeah.
We don't want to nurture her masculine shield. We want to nurture her feelings so that she's feeling first to do good. Men need to be challenged to do good, to feel good correctly. Women need to be feel good to do good, which is correct. When we flip those, then we're dealing with ego dystonia. Then your child is having to undo the trauma into adulthood. Then they're like Meg and I at 34 and 37 being like, oh, we undid all of this programming over the last like X amount of years because we were in this generation of cherishing boys and challenging girls.
And I will just say, like, we all have masculine and feminine energy.
Absolutely.
Like, Nicole and I are some of the most probably dynamic human beings I've ever met in that field. And it's super important to learn flexibility. This is what we teach. It's not about, being rigid and it's, I'm all in my feminine or all in my masculine. It's actually knowing how to maneuver in and out of them. Whether you're gay, straight, lesbian, like, I don't care who you love. I don't care who you have sex with. I care about creating people that are rational and are successful in their relationships and are treating their children well and not forcing them to be something that they're not. And flexibility in a personality is key, because when you get rigidity in a personality, you get antisocial personality disorder, you get narcissism. Those are rigid personalities. When you get flexible personalities, you get people that go, okay, that's what you think. Okay, I understood. Like, you can maneuver. You're adaptable. You're self-aware. You can have relationships that don't just look one way. And, we were so taught rigid this and rigid that. And that's ego dystonia. We really have to come back to, okay, everybody's allowed to be autonomous, not they need to do this and they need to do that. It's like, what? Like, that's transactional love.
That's also mothering.
And it's mothering. And it's just, the mothering is actually the most dangerous of all the ego types.
Sit down, stay in your lane.
And Wuss syndrome is the most dangerous in men because it's narcissism. So, again, if you have questions about this, please, I want you guys to elaborate on this, or I want to know more about this, or you didn't go deeper into that, because I'm telling you, we have so much information. It's hard to really know, and we'll gauge more and more, what our audience wants to hear and things like that. But, really dive into this, because this was why it's one of my favorite words, is because it was one of the most healing things for me to understand, is that, it doesn't just have to look one way, or, I can be multiple things. And it really allowed me to step back into my feminine, because I really thought that being masculine was the only way. So,
well, and this is literally the base core of our work.
It is. Yes.
We literally help. We work with men. We have several that have come to us. They are so soft in the beginning. Like, oh my God, I heard you on a podcast. And they were so timid. And now they're wrecking life. In a very masculine way. They're setting boundaries. They're telling the women in their life to sit down and kindly shut up. enough from you, woman. Like, I don't need a mommy. Not like that, but literally like, hey, I don't appreciate that. You need to stop.
I got this.
Yeah, I got this. And they found their voice. And then the same with these, we work with a lot of entrepreneur women and like CEO, like so much boss bitch
with
trauma.
Women like us.
Yeah.
Weird.
Like so much boss bitch. They're like coming at us and we're like, all right, we see you, but listen, you gotta like, this is
Linda.
why you can't find a masculine man.
Or you're dating Peter Pan, and that's
they're like
always going to end
picking
badly.
with their eyeballs, and we're like, okay, all right, this isn't like, this is why your nervous system's burned out. This is so this is really like the baseline of what we do, and we put in plant medicine so that you can get a understanding of who they are from understanding like, oh, my nervous system, because microdosing and plant medicine allows for individuals to drop back into their bodies, women particularly, and men to clear their thoughts and be like, oh, I'm understanding and recognizing these.
Well, it allows for that flexibility and self-awareness I was just talking about.
Yeah.
It allows you to get rid of the rigid side of yourself and be more open to who you were born to be, not who your parents and society made you into, which is trauma in itself.
Yeah, I mean, microdosing on its own is great, but this is like the baseline of like the framework that we do. We literally guide you back into the proper energy so that then you're able to go into the world and
be who you are.
Be the best version of yourself. Yeah. But if you want us to elaborate, if you have any questions, like if you want us to elaborate on the masculine shield, wuss syndrome, refer back to the Peter Pan. Of course, we have the Alpha Woman class. We have the men's classes are all available right off of our Instagram. Please like, share, follow. We love the comments. If you're listening to us on Spotify, we love a review, as well as on Apple. If this is YouTube, we love the comments. Please subscribe. And of course, until next time.
Bye.